The 2022 annual average sale price for Niagara will quite possibly be the most misleading piece of real estate data of all time. Hey guys, Patrick here. We're here in the second week of December. The year 2022 is more or less a wrap. You know, the last 15, 18 days, whatever's left, we kind of have an idea of how they're going to go. This year is going to wrap up as an absolute one-off, a unicorn riding a roller coaster. It's a statistical anomaly. It's a year many of us would like to just sort of like put in a box, wrap it in duct tape, and put it behind the furnace. But it's been a year nonetheless, and there's a ton to talk about. One of the big problems with all the data that's going to come out of 2022, whether it's looking back at it from 2023 or 24, is this year was so lopsided. The first 4 or 5 months of 2022 and the last 6 or 7 months are completely different. They're not just like chocolate and vanilla. It was like a volleyball and a cauliflower. Just completely different buyer dynamics, seller dynamics, realtor dynamics. Everything was just upside down and different. 2022 is a flip-flop market, meaning in a general year, we see similar trends happen. There's a flow to the market. There's an ebb and a flow where, March, April, May is very active, and then June, July, August might slow down a bit of a kick in September, October, and then things quiet as we come to Christmas. Rinse, wash, repeat. It keeps going, right? What's been super wacky, that's the technical term, about 2022 is everything happened sort of with two different flavors. The first 4 months of 2022 had 44% of all sales for the year happen in those first 4 months. The normal, the 10-year average is around 30% of sales volume happens in those first 4 months. So we had significantly more sales happen in that first 4 months than normal, and then 30, 40, 45% below normal for the last 6 months of the year. Sale price. The average sale price in those first 4 months, first 5 months was sitting around $855,000. Since then, for Niagara, it's been sitting around $700,000. So what does that mean? That means the very beginning of the year had the vast, not the vast majority, but a disproportionate amount of sales happen at a ridiculously higher price than what we had in the back half, where sales were running 30, 40, 50% below normal, and sale prices came down by 100, 155 grand, depending on where you're looking. But in general, that same trend carries across the entire region. So this flip-flop market has resulted in, like I said in the title, the most, or quite possibly, I was hedging a bit, misleading real estate data piece of all time. So case in point, the Niagara region average sale price in 2021 was $709,000. Here in 2022, as I mentioned, where we were $855 and then it came back down to $700. Right now, year to date, the average sale price in Niagara is sitting at $788,000. So the last 4 or 5 months have been sitting around $700. Meanwhile, the year to date is still sitting at almost $790, only because so many homes traded hands at such a higher price earlier in the year. So that has created, again, a false picture, a false scenario of what's happening with the data. Because if you look at purely the annual average sale price for Niagara so far here to almost middle of December, it's still up 11.2% over last year, 2021. Sidebar, 2021, still to this day, the gold medal, absolute world champion Hulk Hogan market, where the average sale price for Niagara was up almost 28%. So the idea that 2022 on paper, statistically, is up by another 11% is almost comical. So sure, that's Niagara. What about where I live, right? Well, if you look at St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, and Welland, which on an annual basis produced 1, 2, and 3 highest number of homes sold in a given year, the exact same thing applies. So St. Catharines' average sale price in 2021 was $642,000. Year to date here in 2022 is at $711,000. So that's an increase of 10.7% for the annual number. Meanwhile, over the last 4 or 5 months, it's been sitting more like $600,000. So the last 4 or 5 months are actually down 5 or 6% compared to 2021. But again, because so many homes traded in the very first 4 months of the year at such a higher price, year-to-date numbers are actually sitting just over 10% for the annual number. Niagara Falls, same deal. 2021 average sale price was $665,000. Sitting the last 4 or 5 months has been sitting around $655,000. So that's a drop of about 1%, 1.5%. Meanwhile, year to date, it's sitting at $749,000, up 12.5%. So again, 2021, $665,000. Year-to-date 2022, sitting at $749,000. However, the last 4 or 5 months is sitting around $655,000. So you have either up 12% or down 1%, depending on what direction you're looking. Lastly, Welland, $590,000 for an average sale price in 2021. Meanwhile, the last 4 or 5 months, it's been sitting around $560 to $580, so roughly 3% less than 2021. However, year to date, because the front end was so front loaded, year to date it's sitting at $655,000, so it's going to show an increase of about 10% year over year for Welland as well. The big problem with this 2022 average sale price being so skewed because of the first 4 months of the year is as we get into the data and the reports for 2023. So picture this. Right now, the average sale price for 2022 is going to settle around $780, $785. It's going to be up 10%, 11% from 2021. Great, right? As I talked about, the 4 or 5 months trend line is sitting around 690 to 705. Where things get a little bit spicy is as we get into 2023 and January becomes February, becomes March, and now all of a sudden we're going to start comparing. Now we're going to go from the pricing's up by 11% to all of a sudden year to date in April or May is going to say, well, now we're down 9% from last year, right? When we start doing year over year. So it's going to be super confusing because 2021 up 28%, 2022 fictitiously or artificially up 11%, or whatever the number is going to be. And then as we get into the new year, into 2023, as data starts to accumulate and compound, we are not going to be at, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, come and talk to me in a year's time, but we are not going to be back up to 790,000 by the end of 2023. There was an article in the paper in the Standard the other day about a forecast of a 4 or 5 or 6% increase, 3%. I can't remember what the exact number was, but based on us being at 690, 700,000, somewhere in that range right now, could we see, things fight back and all of a sudden from the start of 2023 being at 700 to the end of it, are we up by 4 or 5%? All of a sudden we're back up to 725, 730, 735, something like that. But even with that, we're still down by about 8% from 2022 because remember the annual for 2022 is going to sit about 780. Confused yet? Absolutely. It is very confusing because whenever you have such distinct volatility, it's going to spin you in circles because there's not, the comparisons from A to B are so different than the comparisons from A to C. So just my caution to you is to be super, super careful when you're talking to your realtor. Make sure you're getting an accurate, true picture of what's going on because depending on what you're comparing to and how it's being compared and the timelines involved, you're going to get any number of pictures painted for you. Some will be interesting, some will be terrifying, some will be okay, ho-hum, whatever, but they will all be different, I assure you. Guys, thank you for joining me. I think that's a wrap. If you have any questions, I would invite you to reach out to me anytime. You're more than welcome. My info is going to be in the description to the video down below. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I strongly encourage you to do so. You hit the bell on the reminder thingamajammer, and then when we put a new video, next time you log in or come onto YouTube, it's going to be sitting there all shiny and new waiting for you to watch. Thank you so much for your time. Again, if you have questions, I know it's a tricky one out there to make sense of, but that's what we're here for in an effort to make sense of it for you. Okay, thanks. Take care. See ya. Bye.